Ma'am, you need to come with us. We have reason to believe you're undocumented.
I was born in Detroit. I'm a registered nurse. This is my hospital ID.
We'll sort that out at the facility. Hands behind your back.
You're arresting an American citizen in front of her workplace. This is illegal.
ICE agent Marcus Brennan believed he was carrying out a standard immigration enforcement operation. Anonymous tip: suspected undocumented worker, hospital parking lot. In his view, everything was by the book. He'd performed countless operations like this one, depending on profiles and gut feelings that had never faced scrutiny. But when he confronted the black woman wearing scrubs, leaving her car after pulling a 12-hour shift, and handcuffed her without confirming her citizenship status, he committed a devastating error. The woman he detained was Kendra Williams, a 34-year-old emergency room nurse, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. She was a third-generation American whose grandfather fought in Vietnam. What Brennan had no idea about was that the entire detention was recorded on 4 separate body cameras his team wore. Every unlawful action preserved on video that would ultimately cost the federal government $14.8 million. Before we go on, where are you tuning in from? If this is your first visit, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like this one deserve to be shared, and your support allows us to uncover more truth. Brennan had worked with ICE for 6 years out of the Detroit field office, with a history that raised concerns among civil rights groups. 3 formal complaints had named him, each describing a pattern of targeting people based on how they looked rather than actual evidence. His supervisors defended him as aggressive but productive, applauding his arrest statistics without examining his tactics. He trusted his instincts were reliable, that years in the field had trained his eye for who belonged and who didn't. The reality was his instincts were prejudiced, disguised as expertise, assumptions founded in bias rather than legal standards. The tip arrived that morning. Anonymous caller with a thick accent, alleging undocumented workers at Detroit Memorial Hospital operating under fake identities. No names, no details, just unclear accusations that should have been investigated before anyone took action. But Brennan didn't wait. He pulled together a team of 4 agents, himself leading: Agent Tyler Rodriguez, Agent Jennifer Chin, and Agent David Mitchell. All 4 had to wear body cameras during fieldwork, a requirement put in place 2 years before following numerous civil rights complaints. The cameras existed to safeguard both agents and civilians, offering an unbiased account of every encounter. None of them understood that morning that these cameras would become the main evidence in one of the biggest civil rights settlements in ICE history. His strategy was straightforward: monitor the exits during morning shift change, watch for anyone fitting the profile, and make contact. The team set up in the parking lot at 7:00 a.m., their body cameras switched on and recording. The early morning sunlight stretched long shadows over the pavement, the bright daylight guaranteeing excellent video quality. When Kendra emerged through the automatic doors at 7:18 a.m., her dark complexion, her exhausted face, her scrubs showing faint stains from a lengthy overnight shift, something triggered in Brennan's mind. He signaled to his team, and all 4 body cameras pivoted toward her, recording her from several angles in the crisp morning light as she crossed the parking lot, squinting a bit against the climbing sun. Kendra had just wrapped up one of the most draining shifts of her nursing career. 3 trauma patients, 2 cardiac arrests, and a packed waiting room all night long. Her feet throbbed, her back ached, and she wanted nothing more than to get home, shower, and sleep. She was digging for her keys, thinking about the leftover pasta waiting in her fridge, when she heard footsteps behind her multiple sets, fast and determined. She spun around to see 4 agents moving toward her, their silhouettes sharp against the brightening sky, outfitted in tactical gear with ICE badges prominently displayed on their vests. The chest-mounted body cameras were obvious, small lenses capturing everything in crystal-clear daylight. Her stomach dropped. "Excuse me, ma'am," Brennan shouted, his voice carrying that distinct tone of authority designed to intimidate. Rodriguez's body camera recorded Brennan's approach from the side, every detail crisp in the morning light, while Chen's camera filmed Kendra's face, her expression transitioning from confusion to terror, every subtle expression visible in the unforgiving brightness. Mitchell positioned himself slightly behind Kendra, his camera offering a rear view of the whole interaction, the parking lot activity clearly visible as other hospital workers showed up for the day shift. "We need to talk with you." Kendra stopped, her hand clutching her keys so hard her knuckles turned white. Chen's camera caught the shaking in her fingers with perfect clarity. "Can I help you?" Brennan moved closer, his eyes examining her face, her scrubs, searching for hints of deception that existed nowhere but his imagination. His body camera documented his own viewpoint, the image steady in the strong lighting. "We're with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We've gotten information about undocumented workers at this hospital. Can you show identification and proof of citizenship?" Kendra's heart pounded, but she made herself stay composed. All 4 cameras recorded her answer from various angles, the morning sunlight highlighting every detail. "I'm an American citizen. I was born in Detroit. I work here as a nurse." She reached slowly for her purse, and Mitchell's camera zoomed in somewhat, recording her careful movements in sharp detail. She pulled out her hospital ID badge, holding it up for Brennan to see the laminated card gleaming in the sunlight. Rodriguez's camera captured the ID with absolute clarity, the photo, the name Kendra Williams, the title registered nurse, emergency department, all visible and readable, impossible to overlook in the bright morning light. "This is my employee ID. My driver's license is in my wallet." Brennan hardly looked at the ID. His body camera recorded his dismissive motion, his eyes moving away from the identification almost right away, his face clearly visible in the daylight. The other 3 cameras caught his body language from various angles, the way he folded his arms, the tightening of his jaw, all perfectly lit by natural light. He'd already concluded she was undocumented. Everything else was just background noise. "This could be counterfeit," he said, his voice picked up clearly on all 4 audio tracks. "We're going to need you to accompany us for verification." Kendra's hands shook, visible on both Chen and Rodriguez's cameras in the harsh morning light, but her voice stayed firm, the audio picking up every word with crystal clarity. "Verification of what? I just presented you my hospital ID. My driver's license has my birth date and address. What exactly are you charging me with?" Brennan's jaw clenched, the muscles moving beneath his skin captured in high definition on his own body camera, the sunlight exposing every detail of his expression. Resistance always annoyed him, particularly from people he believed had no right to resist. "Ma'am, you need to accompany us. We have reason to suspect you're undocumented. If you're being truthful, this will be resolved quickly." Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably, his camera angle wavering a bit. He sensed something was wrong about this stop, but he remained silent, unwilling to question Brennan's authority in the field. "Reason to suspect?" Kendra's voice climbed, frustration breaking through, captured on all 4 audio tracks simultaneously. "What reason? I showed you my ID. I told you I was born here. What more do you need?" Brennan stepped closer, invading her personal space. His camera recorded the view advancing toward Kendra's face, while Mitchell's camera documented the aggressive approach from behind, other hospital employees clearly visible in the background, starting to notice in the increasing morning activity. "Ma'am, if you don't cooperate, we can handle this the hard way. Your decision." The threat lingered in the air, preserved on 4 separate recordings. Kendra glanced around the parking lot, her head movement tracked by Chen's camera. The morning shift was arriving, cars pulling in steadily, and several colleagues were walking toward the hospital entrance, more people than would have been present at night. Some looked over with concern, a few slowing their pace to observe the confrontation unfolding in broad daylight. The hospital security cameras mounted on the light poles watched from a distance, but it was the body cameras, these 4 lenses, mere inches away, that captured every nuance of the encounter. "I'm cooperating," Kendra said, forcing herself to breathe. Chen's camera captured the rise and fall of her chest, the visible effort to maintain composure in the bright sunlight. "But you're violating my rights. You have no warrant, no probable cause, nothing except an assumption based on how I look." Brennan's face reddened, the color change clearly visible in the unforgiving daylight. His camera recorded his own hand moving toward his hip, a threatening gesture. "Don't make this about race. This is about immigration law." "Then show me the evidence," Kendra fired back, her finger pointing toward Brennan, captured clearly on Rodriguez's camera. "Show me what gave you probable cause to stop me." Because right now it looks like you saw a black woman in a parking lot and decided she must be illegal. Should immigration enforcement agents be required to verify citizenship before making arrests? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This wasn't simply a case of mistaken identity. This was racial profiling supported by federal authority, with consequences that would haunt everyone involved. The other 3 agents shifted uncomfortably, their camera angles wavering as they redistributed their weight from foot to foot. Rodriguez exchanged a glance with Chin, captured on both their cameras a silent recognition that this was going sideways, but neither stepped in. Brennan's authority was absolute in moments like these, and challenging him meant jeopardizing their own positions, possibly their careers. Mitchell's camera recorded him taking a half step backward, as if creating distance from what was about to unfold. Brennan pulled out his handcuffs, the metallic click as he opened them captured clearly on his body camera's audio. "Turn around, hands behind your back." Kendra's blood went cold, her entire body going rigid, visible on all 4 cameras. "You're arresting me for what?" "Suspected immigration violation and failure to provide adequate documentation." The words were bureaucratic nonsense, legal-sounding phrases masking the absence of any real justification. All 4 audio tracks captured the hollow ring of his explanation. "This is insane," Kendra said, her voice trembling now, the shake picked up by the sensitive microphones on all 4 body cameras. "I'm a nurse. I work here. I'm an American citizen. You can verify everything I've said with one phone call." Chen's camera captured Kendra's face in the morning light, tears starting to form in her eyes but not yet falling, the sunlight reflecting off the moisture. "We'll sort that out at the facility," Brennan replied coldly, his camera recording his own hands as they gripped the handcuffs tighter. "Hands behind your back." Kendra hesitated, her body language broadcasting resistance even as her mind weighed the danger. Rodriguez's camera captured her scanning the parking lot, searching for help, for witnesses, for anyone who might step in. There were more people now the morning shift arriving in force, more potential witnesses than there would have been late at night. Mitchell's camera recorded her hands opening and closing at her sides, the internal struggle visible in every movement captured in perfect daylight clarity. She understood the statistics. She knew what happened to people, especially black people who resisted federal agents. She turned slowly, placing her hands behind her back, and Brennan's camera recorded his own perspective as he stepped forward and clicked the cuffs around her wrists. The metallic click echoed on all 4 audio tracks. "These are too tight," Kendra said, her voice strained. Chen's camera captured her wrists in the bright morning light, the metal cutting into her skin, already leaving red marks clearly visible. "They're fine," Brennan replied dismissively. His camera recorded him testing the cuffs with a sharp tug, Kendra's body jerking forward from the force. Rodriguez winced, the movement captured on Chen's camera, but he said nothing. The walk to the ICE van felt surreal. All 4 body cameras recorded the journey from different angles in perfect daylight detail. Brennan's camera showed his view from behind Kendra, his hand on her shoulder guiding her forward with more force than needed. Chen's camera from the side captured Kendra's profile, her jaw clenched, her eyes straight ahead, refusing to look at the colleagues who had stopped to stare. Rodriguez's camera recorded the expanding crowd of hospital staff, more visible now in the morning light, some pulling out their phones to record, others standing frozen in shock. Mitchell's camera, bringing up the rear, captured the full scene, 4 federal agents in tactical gear escorting a handcuffed nurse across the parking lot of her own workplace in broad daylight. "Kendra," a voice called out. All 4 cameras swiveled toward the sound. It was Dr. Sarah Mendez, one of the attending physicians Kendra worked with, just arriving for her shift. Mendez's face was a mask of confusion and horror, captured clearly on Rodriguez's camera in the morning sunlight. "What's happening?" "They're arresting me," Kendra called back, her voice breaking. Chen's camera recorded the tear that finally spilled down her cheek, glistening in the sunlight. "They think I'm undocumented." "She's American," Mendez shouted, starting forward. Mitchell's camera recorded him stepping into her path, his hand raised. "Mom, step back. This is federal business." "Federal business?" Mendez's voice rose, captured on all 4 audio tracks. "She's one of our best nurses. She was born here. This is insane." "Ma'am, final warning," Mitchell said, his voice firm. His camera recorded Mendez stopping, her hands raised, her face flushed with anger and helplessness, all clearly visible in the daylight. Brennan's camera recorded him opening the back door of the van, a white vehicle with small windows and no handles on the inside. "Watch your head," he said, his hand pushing down on Kendra's head as he guided her into the seat. Rodriguez's camera, positioned outside the van, captured Kendra's face one more time before the door closed, her expression a mixture of fear, rage, and disbelief, illuminated by the morning sun. The van's interior had its own camera system, separate from the body cameras, but all 4 agents kept their cameras running. Brennan climbed into the driver's seat, his camera now facing forward toward the windshield, bright daylight streaming through. Rodriguez sat in the passenger seat, his camera angled back toward the cargo area where Kendra sat. Chin and Mitchell climbed into a second vehicle to follow. "You comfortable back there?" Brennan asked, his tone sarcastic. Rodriguez's camera captured Kendra in the back, natural light from the small windows illuminating her face, her hands still cuffed behind her, her body pressed against the metal seat. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not comfortable. I'm in handcuffs in the back of a van despite being an American citizen who committed no crime." Rodriguez's camera recorded his own hand moving toward the radio, then stopping. He wanted to say something, wanted to question whether they were doing the right thing, but the words wouldn't come. Brennan's camera recorded the view through the windshield as they pulled out of the parking lot, the morning traffic already building. The dashboard display showed the time, 7:34 a.m. The drive to the ICE detention facility took 40 minutes. All 4 body cameras remained active, capturing the journey from multiple perspectives. Brennan's camera recorded the road ahead, the morning commute, the route. Rodriguez's camera stayed trained on Kendra in the back, documenting her sitting in silence, her chest rising and falling with each controlled breath, her face turned toward the small window, watching the city pass by in morning sunlight. When they arrived at the facility, Chen and Mitchell pulled in behind them. All 4 cameras captured the exterior of the building, a nondescript concrete structure with high fences and razor wire stark in the morning light. The agent's body cameras recorded every step of the intake process. Brennan's camera showed his perspective as he opened the van door and helped Kendra out, his grip on her arm firmer than necessary. Chen's camera captured Kendra's face as she stepped into the harsh fluorescent lighting of the facility's entrance, contrasting with the natural daylight outside, her eyes adjusting to the change. Mitchell's camera recorded the walk down the corridor, the echo of footsteps on linoleum, the heavy doors with small reinforced windows. At the intake desk, Rodriguez's camera captured the processing officer, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a nameplate reading Officer Davis. Brennan removed Kendra's handcuffs, the release captured on his body camera, revealing the deep red marks on her wrists, even more visible under the fluorescent lights. Chen's camera zoomed in on the marks, clear evidence of how tightly the cuffs had been applied. "Name," Davis said, her fingers poised over a keyboard. "Kendra Williams." All 4 cameras recorded her response. Date of birth: March 15th, 1990. Place of birth: Detroit, Michigan. Davis's fingers paused. Her camera angle shifted slightly as she looked up. "You were born in Detroit?" "Yes." Kendra's voice was firm, captured clearly on all 4 audio tracks. "I'm an American citizen. I've told these agents repeatedly. They arrested me anyway." Davis looked at Brennan, her expression skeptical. Mitchell's camera captured the exchange between them, the unspoken question hanging in the air. "She could be lying," Brennan said, his camera recording his own hands, gesturing dismissively. "Could be using a stolen identity. We need to run a full background check." "I'm not lying," Kendra said, her voice rising. Rodriguez's camera captured her leaning forward, her frustration evident. "I'm a registered nurse at Detroit Memorial Hospital. I've worked there for 6 years. My nursing license number is RN471893. Look it up. Call the hospital. Call the Michigan Board of Nursing. Everything will verify what I'm telling you." Davis's expression shifted, doubt creeping in. Chen's camera captured her typing on the keyboard, searching databases. her face illuminated by the monitor's glow. "What's your social security number?" Kendra recited it, the numbers captured on all 4 audio tracks. Davis typed, waited, then her eyes widened. Mitchell's camera recorded her expression changing from skepticism to concern to outright alarm. "She's in the system," Davis said slowly, her voice captured on all 4 cameras. "Born in Detroit. Valid social security number issued in 1990. No immigration holds, no warrants, nothing." Brennan stepped closer to the monitor, his camera recording the screen, though the angle made the text difficult to read. "That doesn't prove anything. Run a deeper check." "I already did," Davis replied, her voice tight. Chen's camera captured her turning to face Brennan directly. "She's a licensed RN in Michigan. Active status, no disciplinary actions. She's been paying taxes at the same address for 6 years. She has a valid U.S. passport that was renewed 18 months ago." The silence that followed was captured on all 4 cameras, the audio feeds picking up only the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of voices from other parts of the facility. Rodriguez was the first to speak, his voice uncertain. "So she's telling the truth." "Appears so," Davis said coldly. All 4 cameras captured her expression, a mixture of anger and disbelief as she stared at Brennan. "You arrested an American citizen." Brennan's face flushed red, the color change visible on Chen and Mitchell's cameras. "We had a tip. We had reasonable suspicion." "Based on what?" Davis demanded. Her question hung in the air, captured on 4 separate recordings, and Brennan had no answer. The silence stretched for 10 full seconds, every moment documented from multiple angles. "I want my phone call," Kendra said, breaking the silence. All 4 cameras swiveled toward her. "Now." Davis nodded, her expression softening. "Of course. Mitchell, take her to the phone." Mitchell's camera recorded the walk down another corridor to a small room with a single phone on a metal desk. Chin followed, her camera providing a second angle. Kendra's hands were shaking as she dialed, the tremor visible on both cameras. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Mom," Kendra's voice cracked, hours of composure finally shattering. "I've been arrested. ICE arrested me. I'm at a detention facility." Both cameras captured the tears streaming down her face now, her body shaking with sobs. Her mother's scream was so loud it was picked up by both body camera microphones. "What? Baby, what are you talking about? You're American." "I know, Mom. I told them. I showed them my ID. They didn't care. They arrested me anyway. I need you to call a lawyer. Get someone down here, please." The desperation in her voice was palpable, captured in high-definition audio. Her mother was crying now, but her voice steadied the strength of a parent taking over. "I'm calling right now. Don't say anything else to them. Don't answer any more questions. We're going to get you out. Do you hear me? We're getting you out." "I hear you," Kendra whispered. The call ended, and Chen's camera captured Kendra's hand replacing the receiver, moving in slow motion as if the simple action required all her remaining strength. Mitchell's camera recorded her wiping her face, trying to compose herself, her chest heaving with suppressed sobs. Outside, the wheels of justice were beginning to turn. Kendra's mother called her son, Marcus, Kendra's younger brother, who worked as a paralegal at a civil rights firm. Marcus listened to the story with growing fury, then immediately called his boss, attorney Daniel Reeves. Reeves was a veteran civil rights lawyer with 20 years of experience and a reputation for taking on cases that other attorneys considered too difficult or too controversial. He listened to Marcus's recounting of events, asked 3 pointed questions, then said, "I'm taking this case. Get me everything: birth certificate, nursing license, employment records, passport, everything that proves she's a citizen. I'm heading to that facility now." While Reeves gathered documents and drove toward the detention center, all 4 ICE agents remained at the facility, their body cameras still recording. Brennan stood in the hallway, his camera capturing his view of the floor, his posture defensive. Rodriguez and Chin sat in the break room, their cameras recording their uncomfortable silence. Mitchell's camera showed him reviewing his own footage on a small monitor, watching the arrest play back, his expression growing more troubled with each replay. At 12:18 p.m., 5 hours after Kendra's arrest, Daniel Reeves arrived at the facility. His entrance was captured on the facility security cameras and on Rodriguez's body camera as Rodriguez was called to the front desk. Reeves was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He carried a leather briefcase that he set down on the intake desk with deliberate force. "I'm Daniel Reeves, attorney for Kendra Williams," he announced, his voice carrying down the corridor. "I'm here to secure her immediate release." Davis, still at the desk, looked relieved. "I'll get the supervisor." The supervisor, a career ICE administrator named Patricia Sanchez, arrived within minutes. All 4 agents were called to the front office, their body cameras capturing the meeting from multiple angles. Reeves opened his briefcase and began laying documents on the desk one by one, each paper placed with precise deliberation. Kendra Williams was born in Detroit on March 15, 1990. Here's her birth certificate certified copy with raised seal. Brennan's camera recorded his own hands clenching at his sides. "She's a licensed registered nurse in the state of Michigan. Here's her license active and current." Rodriguez's camera captured his own feet shuffling nervously. "She's employed at Detroit Memorial Hospital and has been for 6 years. Here's her employment verification, her tax returns for the past 6 years, and a letter from the hospital administrator confirming her citizenship and employment status." Chen's camera recorded her own hand moving to cover her mouth. "She has a valid U.S. passport. Here it is, issued by the U.S. Department of State. Valid until 2028. Mitchell's camera captured the passport as Reeves held it up, the gold eagle emblem clearly visible. Reeves looked at each agent in turn, his gaze captured on all 4 cameras. "Now," he said, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of absolute authority, "explain to me how your agents determined she was undocumented." The silence was deafening, captured on all 4 audio tracks. Sanchez turned to Brennan, her expression captured on 3 cameras simultaneously. "Agent Brennan, what evidence did you have to make this arrest?" Brennan's camera recorded his own view of the floor as he struggled to answer. "We received a tip about undocumented workers at the hospital. She matched the description." "What description?" Reeves demanded, stepping closer. His face filled the frame of Brennan's body camera. The anonymous tip didn't include any names, any specific descriptions, any identifying information. "So tell me, Agent Brennan, what exactly did Miss Williams match?" The answer hung unspoken in the air, obvious to everyone present and preserved on 4 separate recordings. She matched Brennan's racist assumptions about who looked undocumented. "She's black," Reeves said flatly, stating what everyone was thinking. "That's the only description she matched. You saw a black woman in a parking lot and decided she must be illegal. That's called racial profiling, Agent Brennan, and it's illegal." Brennan's camera recorded his own hands trembling. Rodriguez's camera captured Brennan's face from the side, pale and sweating. Chen's camera recorded the entire room, the circle of people, the tension so thick it was almost visible. Sanchez's voice cut through the silence, tight, with barely controlled fury. "Release her immediately." Kendra was brought out of the holding area at 12:47 p.m., 5.5 hours after her arrest. All 4 body cameras captured her emergence, her scrubs wrinkled, her eyes red and swollen, her wrists bruised. Reeves moved toward her immediately, and Chen's camera recorded Kendra collapsing against him, her body shaking with sobs. "They had no right," she said, the words muffled against his shoulder but still picked up by multiple microphones. "I told them. I showed them everything. They didn't care." "I know," Reeves said quietly, his hand on her back. Mitchell's camera captured the gesture, the comfort of human contact, after hours of cold detention, and they're going to answer for it. Before leaving, Reeves turned to Sanchez. Rodriguez's camera captured the exchange. "I want copies of all body camera footage from this incident. All 4 agents, full recordings from the moment they activated their cameras until now." Sanchez nodded slowly. "That's your right, under the Freedom of Information Act. We'll process the request." "I don't want it processed," Reeves replied, his voice hardening. "I want it preserved as evidence right now before anything has a chance to be lost or corrupted." His implication was clear, and Brennan's camera recorded his own sharp intake of breath. Sanchez understood immediately. "I'll secure the footage personally," You'll have copies within 48 hours. The footage was preserved that afternoon. All 4 body cameras, nearly 6 hours of recording from multiple angles was copied to secure servers. The timestamps, the metadata, everything that would prove the footage was authentic and unaltered. The lawsuit was filed 3 weeks later. Kendra Williams versus United States Department of Homeland Security, Marcus Brennan, Tyler Rodriguez, Jennifer Chin, David Mitchell, and Patricia Sanchez. The charges were extensive: false arrest, illegal detention, violation of civil rights under the 4th and 14th Amendments, racial profiling, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and deprivation of rights under color of law. The evidence was unprecedented in its completeness: 4 body cameras, each providing a different angle of the same incident. Every word spoken was captured on multiple audio feeds. Every movement, every gesture, every moment of Kendra's fear and the agent's aggression was documented in high-definition video, much of it in perfect daylight clarity. Reeves had handled hundreds of civil rights cases, but he had never had evidence this comprehensive. In his opening statement, he told the jury, "You're not going to have to take anyone's word for what happened that morning. You're going to see it from 4 different perspectives in broad daylight with perfect video quality. You're going to hear every word. And when you do, you're going to understand that this wasn't a mistake. This was racial profiling, pure and simple, executed by federal agents who believed their badges made them untouchable." The federal government tried to settle early $200,000 and a formal apology. Reeves refused. They came back with $500,000. Refused. $1 million. Refused. "This isn't about money," Reeves told Kendra during one of their strategy sessions. "This is about accountability, about making sure every ICE agent in this country knows that they can't treat citizens like criminals based on the color of their skin." The case went to trial 16 months after Kendra's arrest. The courtroom was packed every day, media filling the back rows, civil rights advocates and community members lining up hours before the doors opened to secure a seat. The body camera footage was the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. On the trial's 3rd day, all 4 recordings were played simultaneously on 4 large screens positioned around the courtroom. The jury watched in absolute silence as the arrest unfolded from multiple perspectives. They saw Brennan's dismissive gesture when Kendra showed her hospital ID, captured on his own camera in bright daylight. They saw Rodriguez's uncomfortable shifting, visible on Chen's camera. They saw Mitchell stepping back, distancing himself, recorded on his own footage. They saw Kendra's fear, her tears, her bruised wrists captured from every angle in crystal-clear video. The audio was devastating. Played through the courtroom sound system, every word was crystal clear. Brennan's threat, "We can do this the hard way." Kendra's desperate assertion, "I'm an American citizen." The click of handcuffs, the suppressed sobs during the drive. When the footage ended, the courtroom remained silent for a full 30 seconds. Several jurors were crying. Kendra testified for 4 hours, walking the jury through every moment of that morning: the exhaustion after her overnight shift, the terror when she saw the agents approaching in the bright morning light, the humiliation of being handcuffed in front of her colleagues in broad daylight with dozens of witnesses, the cold fear of detention. Her voice shook, but she didn't break. She wanted the jury to understand not just what had happened, but what it felt like to be treated like a criminal in your own country. Brennan's testimony was catastrophic. Under cross-examination, Reeves systematically dismantled every justification he offered. "You said you had reasonable suspicion. What was it?" Silence. The anonymous tip mentioned the hospital, but it didn't mention Miss Williams by name, did it? No. It didn't provide a description of any specific individual. No. So what made you approach Miss Williams specifically? Silence, captured by the courtroom's recording system. "Agent Brennan, I'll ask again. What made you single out Miss Williams from all the people leaving that hospital?" She matched a profile." "What profile?" More silence. "Agent Brennan, the body camera footage shows dozens of people leaving that hospital during your operation. People of various races, ages, and genders. But you only stopped Miss Williams. Why?" Brennan's voice was barely audible. "I thought she looked suspicious." "Looked suspicious? How?" Be specific. I can't. I don't know. It was instinct. Instinct based on what? Her race? No. Then what? Her scrubs? Her hospital ID? The fact that she was walking to her car? What about Miss Williams was suspicious? Brennan had no answer. The prosecution called expert witnesses who explained how implicit bias affects law enforcement decisions, how racial profiling operates, and how the Fourth Amendment protects citizens from unreasonable search and seizure. The defense tried to argue that ICE agents operate under difficult circumstances and sometimes make honest mistakes. Reeves destroyed that argument in his closing. Honest mistakes are forgiven, he told the jury. But this wasn't an honest mistake. Agent Brennan saw a black woman and assumed she was undocumented. He ignored her hospital ID. He dismissed her assertion of citizenship. He arrested her without probable cause and detained her for hours, despite having no evidence. That's not a mistake. That's racial profiling, and it violated Miss Williams's constitutional rights. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous on all counts. The damages phase took another week. The jury heard testimony about Kendra's emotional trauma, her nightmares, her fear of leaving her house, her inability to return to work at the hospital where she'd been arrested. They heard from her psychologist about her diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. They heard from her mother about watching her daughter, a third-generation American, treated like a criminal. When the jury announced the damages, the courtroom erupted. $8 million in compensatory damages for emotional distress, lost wages, medical expenses, and violation of constitutional rights. $6.8 million in punitive damages, specifically calculated to send a message to ICE and other federal agencies. Total, $14.8 million. Kendra broke down crying, surrounded by her family. Reeves stood quietly, watching the jury, these 12 ordinary citizens who had looked at the evidence and decided that racial profiling would not be tolerated, even when committed by federal agents. Brennan was terminated within hours of the verdict. Rodriguez, Chin, and Mitchell were suspended pending review. Rodriguez eventually resigned, unable to continue in law enforcement after being part of such a visible civil rights violation. Chen and Mitchell were reassigned to desk positions, their field careers effectively over. The Department of Homeland Security announced comprehensive reforms. Mandatory implicit bias training for all ICE agents, stricter protocols requiring citizenship verification before any arrest, independent review of all immigration detentions, and a new policy requiring body camera footage to be preserved for a minimum of 5 years in any case involving a disputed arrest. Kendra used part of her settlement to establish the Williams Civil Rights Legal Fund, providing free legal representation to others wrongfully detained by immigration authorities. She became a powerful advocate for reform, testifying before Congress, speaking at universities, sharing her story with anyone who would listen. The body camera footage became a teaching tool in law schools and police academies, a stark example of how racial bias can lead to civil rights violations and how technology can provide irrefutable evidence of misconduct. And in ICE offices across the country, the case of Kendra Williams became legend, a cautionary tale about the consequences of racial profiling, told in training sessions and whispered in hallways, a reminder that body cameras cut both ways, protecting good agents but exposing those who abuse their authority. For cameras, for perspectives, one undeniable truth: racial profiling is illegal, expensive, and captured in high definition. If you believe that citizenship should be verified before arrest, that racial profiling has no place in law enforcement, and that justice requires holding powerful institutions accountable, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tomorrow, we have another story of courage and accountability that you won't want to miss. Because the truth, when recorded from 4 different angles and proven beyond any doubt, has the power to change not just individual lives but entire systems of justice.